welcome everyone to yet another episode of Future of Data, Data and Analytics bi-weekly newscast. Today is week 29. That means we have the newsletter coming out of oven fresh for all of us from Tao. So we are back again discussing this newsletter, and from the look of it, it's exciting as well. So far, pretty happy with what Tao is delivering. But before that, I have one quick shout out to give. So I just received a copy of, I don't know if you see this, Mathematical Corporation from Josh and Angela, our friends from Booz Allen. So
that's awesome.
do check out. They have not sponsored this, by the way, but I'm a big fan, and I think I'm always a big fan of people who are dealing with a lot of business problems, and pretty much compiling their thoughts. And this is one such book. So it narrates how you can create a mathematical driven organization, and it lays out foundation, it lays out boundaries. Thank you, Angela and Josh, for this amazing gift. I have started reading, and I'll finish it soon, and I'll have a review for you guys. But do
we look forward to hearing about it.
Yes, do keep sharing us good stuff, and thank you. So now back to our newsletter, and thank you for the small detour. Just it was a nice surprise. I thought maybe I should share that what amazing stuff they are doing to our audience. So Maria, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Vishal?
Good. July 4th. How was that?
Yeah, I was banging.
For us,
yeah, there was a lot going on, and then the summer has brought in a lot of festivities. You know, everyone's trying to get out the office and do something a little different, and so we've had some hackathons and we've had some conferences, and so our summer has been good over here.
Nice. I think that's beautiful. We went, I think this is the first time we went to almost like middle of nowhere. It's just like, so we went completely off grid.
Oh wow!
It's
was it hard or was it nice?
It's fascinating. I think I would suggest it to all of our friends, all of our listeners, to try going off grid. I think it's basically, we have been, and because of our job, right, we are always around data a lot, right? We are always around data driven, monitoring things and all that, right? It's very difficult to get a perspective, and the moment you are off it, then you think it's beautiful. Like we went to somewhere in I think it's a Rifton, New York, middle of nowhere. It's
wow.
Yeah, we just took a property in some woods. Oh man, it was beautiful. Kids enjoyed it. We had barbecue. We had fun. Made a lot of mess in the middle of jungle. So that was like,
definitely
that's 4th of July
just kind
for
of do
us.
something different, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then you can come back to it.
Yes. Now, so now let's get to our fun stuff. We have a lot to cover, and let's start with the cover of the week. What do you think, Maria?
This was a great comic. I thought it was really fun, and it did catch me by surprise at the end, because usually I think like, okay, I kind of know where it's going with the joke, but this one was funny.
Yes.
So
so
we have
so to our audience, so it's I think it's the cartoon where Dilbert's boss is saying our consultant has been mining data all day long. And I think the Dogbird says, hey, the results are quite shocking. And then according to the data, sales are always good when I do this, when I do some kind of, it's a very very creative spin.
And he does this funny face, right? This crazy funny face.
It makes, and I think it gives a very good perspective on causation is not correlation debate. So it's a nice pun to that. So definitely made sense. It's a fun one.
Causation is not correlation, right?
Yes.
And even though those things look very close to each other, very similar,
yes.
It doesn't always have the meaning.
And I think now if I think, and we will talk about it later as well, in the newsletter, there is, I think there are some commonalities, causation and correlation, and like
Yeah.
data and creative side to look at the data, and then to figuring out. So I think that it'll be a fun chat, I'm hoping. So now let's
Yeah,
get
I
to the,
noticed that as well
yes.
with this one. That there was like the idea of like the something similar or the verisimilitude
Hmm.
or that which is, appearing to be like, but is not exactly, and knowing how, kind of measuring the difference and being
Right.
able to like go into details with that. So I saw that thread with that Tao was bringing up there with that, and I liked that.
Yes, I think I agree with you. So now let's get to the local events and sessions. So the three events it has booked, and obviously it's it to our audience. You know that it is a web version, so it tries to pick webcast and go to webinars and webinars for our audience. So this is no different. So it has picked three events that are nice blend to understand what's going on in the big data space. One is the data analytics for marketers webcast. So that's and I think we all know, and we have Maria, and we have discussed in our previous interactions as well, that marketers are one of the early adopter of data and analytics. They are the ones who are savvy at this. They have been doing this forever, and if you don't believe it, open your TV and look at any ads, or see
Hmm.
how you were actually getting to a new product, testing new product, what actually helped. So you see the creative genius behind the marketers trying to find innovative ways to get to us. So they have to live and breathe on this idea of data driven. So this is a good webcast for, and I think if, and even if you're not from a marketer's end, if you are, say, healthcare, or if you are from some more regulated industry or whatever, do check out what's going on in your parallel verticals, because many ideas are not often in your own forest. You have to dig somewhere. And I
Hmm.
think, as I was saying, discussing with Maria, 4th July we went to totally offbeat place, and we get some new
Yeah.
ideas, right? So it's not coming from my backyard, because I know my backyard. I've seen it like 1,000 times. So there's not that much of discovery possible there. Then pretty much some neighbor's backyard maybe. So
Hmm.
this is one such example.
Hmm.
Go and check it out. There's also an event on virtual training, scanning and enumeration. So this is another so enumeration to our audience. So this is, it talks about pretty much understanding the system. So system thinking. So if suppose you want to understand systems, operating systems, or process systems, or business systems, this is a great training program, because what it's telling you is, hey, how you can understand what all variables are out there, what all enumerations are out there that is making your system work. And this will help you kind of a hacking or a hacker's thinking. And they have also, so that we don't end up in a messier, so they have also covered on something around the ethical hacking and all that stuff. But definitely it gives that perspective of scratching the surface and trying to just dig deeper a bit, and trying to just peel, like raise every piece of leaf and see what's going on underneath. So a good scanning and enumeration training module would help, and this is one such one. So I think I would definitely appreciate Tao for sharing that with us, and I'll check it out for sure. And the third one that it has picked up for us is how to learn data science. So I think this is maybe the third newsletter where it's speaking something around how to learn. So I do appreciate anytime because I know many people are watching it for the first time. Many people are actually have not
Hmm.
missed that particular piece or missed that particular piece. So the more it shouts, and I love this like beaconing of, hey, just data science, R, Python, like anything it just shares.
Yeah.
I do much
Yeah.
appreciate that. So Maria, what do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many new folks that are hearing it all the time, and they're getting interested, and they're looking to transition or get into it right from school. Even in the curriculum for university, you need all of these case studies, to help solidify the theory behind it. So it's always, I think it's always great that there are these different methods and roadways to becoming a data scientist, and it's very diverse, so that almost, you have the inclinations and the interest, and you can figure anything out. So I always like to see how it's presented in different ways.
Right.
So
Well said. Well said. And I think no, let's get to the analytics week bites. So these are the blogs that Tao has picked from Analytics Week. So we have asked Tao to pick blogs from the open web, from our sort of news portal, and from our own platform,
mhm.
so that we can correlate and we can, so it's for our monitoring purpose, but also we want our audience to check out some of the interesting blogs and if possible contribute there as well, because we would definitely want to be in the space of educating our folks, or our friends in data science. So that's why. So this is from the Analytics Week blogs. And by the way, if you want to blog, please, I do appreciate you coming in and writing stuff there. So the first blog is app UX analytics. Success relies on going beyond the numbers. What do you think, Maria?
Mhm. I really liked this article, and shout out to
This is one of
who wrote
our
this
picks. So
one.
this is one of our admin picks.
Okay, okay. Well, I really liked this because the customer is the one that should be focused or kept in mind during the whole cycle of the process. And there's a lot of detail in making sure that that communication is uh, is happening. And so going beyond just the numbers was a great way of showing that in this article. So I appreciate that.
No, I think you're right. Absolutely. So, um, as I think, and usability analytics, yeah, user experience analytics. So it's actually it's hitting many interesting points for us.
Mhm.
So first is appifying, the very fact of, I think I like the title of it. So uh, app UX analytics. I think all these three words are extremely important if you're in data science, let alone so this article apart, right? So
Mhm.
appifying means containing sort of a use case centric small app that you can use, and creating an experience around that, so that we can contain an experience around a single use case, or at least finite number of use cases that app can deliver, and then having analytics to. So these are like all the things that are music to my ears, to music to most of the analysts, most to sort of people who want to learn. So, and success relies beyond the going beyond the numbers. So it's as Maria rightly said. So it goes over a bunch of interesting use cases. It goes over bunch of interesting sort of models. So do check this article out. Very informative, and I hope you like it. Now let's go to the next one. Who is your biggest fan on Facebook? Navigating the Facebook Graph API. What do you think, Maria?
Yeah. Anything with social media, I think we need to pay attention to because it's part of the communication of our culture and how we are relating to each other with these new technologies and the new ways that we're able to communicate with each other. So anything that has the social media, I really, my ears go up and I'm interested in. And so I thought this was very fascinating because everyone, it's the connection that people are looking for that they can find in social media, that you have maybe too much of a busy life to be able
Right.
to get that kind of connection in person. And so it becomes important to us even though it's virtual. And so I
Yes.
just find it really interesting that we're busy and we're doing other things, but it's important to us to know who is, or we all want to know who is close to us and who is relating with us. So it's a it's really something that kind of a question that everybody talks about is like, oh, who's my biggest fan, or who's looking at my stuff. And
Right.
even if you're trying to send a message, you want to know who your audience is, and you want to know who's looking at you. So I think that it's a really important topic.
Yes.
And I like how this article goes through also some of the technical details of how to get the information that you're looking for. So you have both, like in this blog, you have both of these aspects together. So who wrote this one.
Yes, so Naveen Bhaskar, I think he's one of the. So
Yeah, she's gonna shout out to him, right?
yes, he's again. I think this the last one I remember from him was about Netflix, how the prediction algorithm. I think he lays it out for others to use and understand how you can use R or basically how you can create models. And I think in this one he wrote basically how you can use Graph API to find who are your biggest fan, who are watching and all that. So I think beautifully done, Naveen, and even like if you click on his username, you'll get to his past blogs as well. He has talked about how Netflix recommend engine works, and good learning. If you want to sort of create something similar, at least
Yeah,
it gets you some perspective. So definitely very good article. Check it out. And Naveen, keep sending us good stuff.
yeah.
We do every
Thank
time
you.
we do appreciate some good reads for our audience for sure. The next one is a bit gimmicky. So it's the evolution of the geek. So I think this is one of
Yeah, one
the
of those little fun things.
oh it's I think it's one of the infographic that I came across when I was doing some research around uh, what are the dimensions of technicality, and I get through this funky article around what kind of geeks are there and what happens to them, and they are medical geeks, they are engineering geeks, they are like so, and it's just defining it's a fun infographic just to have a light moment and understand that there are a lot of interesting passionate folks around anything and everything technical about anything and everything
Yeah,
concepts. So it's a pretty
right.
nice infographic.
Everything has something technical too. Everything has the general and then the really detailed aspect, right?
Mm.
Meticulous aspect. So,
Yes.
so which ones are you, Vishal? Do you identify with certain geeks of this
I
chart?
I don't know. I think I'm more of a nerd than a geek. So, and I
Oh
think that's
yeah,
that's another that's another battle, right?
that's
So
another topic.
yeah, so it's another like Vim versus Emacs debate that either are you a nerd or are you a geek? And I think if you want to, there's an amazing epic battle rap between geek and nerd. I guess that's
Yeah,
hilarious. That's
yeah, I
hilarious.
like those too. I was just
Yes.
thinking about that.
Yes, I think so. To our audience, go check it out. They have like
Yeah,
some
you can.
amazing epic rap battles there. So now let's
Yeah, I
get
think.
to the yes,
No, I just think the name is Epic Rap Battle,
yes.
right? Yeah.
So now let's get to the news bites, and these are the news articles that Tao picked up from the web, or like we have our news portal where we have sort of a secondary algorithm that goes out and gather different news segments from interesting topics. So Tao picks and try to see if it can blend in some of the news in the newsletter. So the first one talks about telecommunication and cyber companies start Internet of Things Cybersecurity Alliance. So I think it talks it's a self-explanatory. So definitely, Maria, what do you think?
Yeah, cybersecurity is really important. There's just seems like there's no end. There's always a new way that it could risk and compromise. So, there's always going to be new solutions needed for cybersecurity and with the data. So I think it's definitely an important thing to look into.
Absolutely, and I think to our audience, last week we have posted the podcast that's around cybersecurity. So do check that out. We had a meetup panel in Boston, and we talked about security, and there were like interesting conversation about Patea and bunch of sort of the recent attacks and how businesses could sort of safeguard. Interesting conversations. There was a Booz Allen guy, there was a security company guy, there was a startup guy. Like we had a nice blend of four professionals talking about from their perspective how they could save, or how should businesses think about security. A very interesting topic for all of us to choose. So check out. I think the last podcast from this one. So that's the cyber security infosec panel, I guess that's the name. So that's beautiful. Cloud security is still in works, in progress. I think again the theme is security here. I'm thinking that so this is again, it's a big debate. Even in my interaction with a lot of businesses, we often talk about adoption of cloud. So there is an anxiety on businesses should adopt cloud, but then the security
Mm-hmm.
frameworks are not properly defined or not approved, and then in lieu of regulation. So how it's a I think it's a big mess now, but it's getting sorted out. But so if you are a healthcare, there are regulations for you to share your data. So how can you put what you can put on cloud, and then you have to make sure the security is known. And but the cloud it is home to many other frameworks. So how you can secure when you don't have control over the entire cloud. So there are a lot of conversation, a lot of sort of anxieties with businesses on how they can use cloud. And then we have also heard about on-prem cloud and off-prem cloud. So that's another gimmicky thing, that if it's on-prem or on premises, it's just my hard drive. Like why it's like having my own data center vis-a-vis having somewhere else data center. And then how, if suppose I'm in Europe, should I maintain a separate cloud for Europe, or because every country and every the trade policies are different. China makes you store data locally, so many other countries. So it just goes into that debate that cloud security is it's still sort of in its infancy, I would say, and at least for
Yeah.
most of the conversation. Maria, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot more questions than we have answers
Yes,
to.
that's true. That is true. So the third one is uncover machine learning's potential with Python training collection. So Maria, what
Yeah.
do you think?
Yes, I have talked to some people that have used Python for just this reason. Computer scientists, data scientists that have used other things before and kind of have not used Python and only came into Python because of uh, being having to do something with this kind of level of a project. So even when they were in the beginning of starting this and might not have uh, knew too much about Python, they came to like Python for through this experience. So I thought uh, this was an interesting piece that kind of just reinforced that.
Right. No, I think you're spot on. Python is again. I'm biased, by the way. So I'm a big fan of Python. So I love it. It works. And I don't want to go on the debate of R versus Python, but definitely machine learning and low footprint of Python. It makes you can have a lot of CPUs and GPUs in your favor if you use Python to analyze. So definitely good article, and definitely a good conversations to have if you are trying to figure out a good analytics platform for your analysis. Very very good. Now let's get to the featured course, which is polar to this blog.
Right.
So it goes to the R
But it
basics.
just depends, right? Because it just depends what you're working on and what you're trying to do. What you need.
Yes.
So, but
So
if you're
but
going into that machine learning and you need some Python.
so if you have read the previous article, then probably you would skim this. If you It depends where you stand in this club. But yes, a very good tutorial on R. And as I said, and as Maria and we discussed, the more talks about any of R, Python, sort of tutorials and books and whatever, we much appreciate that. So definitely,
Yeah.
it's a good tutorial, a very highly rated, and for beginner level, you don't have to have a pre-coding background. That's the beauty of R. It's very user friendly, and go check it out, and let us know your thoughts. And so far, we have heard good things. Even we had something similar courses in the past podcasts, that there has been always positive response. So Maria, what do you think?
Yeah, you just it depends on what you're using it for, but if you need R, if you're a startup or you're working on something that you just need to learn quickly, I think that can encompass those kind of projects.
Nice, nice. And I'm excited about talking about the next topic. It's the featured read. Um,
Yeah, I was like, I think I want to read this one.
this is beautiful. So
So,
it's the misbehavior of markets, a fractal view of financial turbulence.
yeah,
So
it's got a lot of key points in there, right?
oh,
Just right there.
this is beautiful. So and in fact, I have been a big fan of fractal since beginning, and I think last month I had a conversation with one of the professor from a local university here in Boston, and he was working. I think it's either Northeastern or BU, one of those guys. So and he was actually making an interesting point. So his point was, and I'll get to the book by the way, but this is important. I want to discuss. So he was talking about Vishal, the maths that have been built. Maths. So when there was no computer, when there was no visualization, no way to imagine things, math
Hmm.
was our visual kit. So we used to use numbers and formulas to contain what we are observing, right?
Right.
So, but what happens when we have more numbers? We have incremental or we have more data. So many of these mathematical models they fall flat in predicting those, and uh, at that point you seek the help of better visuals or better way to understand and encapsulate all of your findings into by some mathematical model. And and I think fractal is one such beauty that came immediately after the onset of computers by IBM or whatever. And I think Binoy Mandelbrot is fabulous guys. I think he's one of the first guy who worked on the fractal problem. So he is and to our audience, if they know what if they don't know what fractal means, so fractal is pretty much it's a representation or a geometrical representation in which if you zoom in, so if you look at an object from some height, and if you go down, say if you zoom in a lot, you will see the identical image of that. So basically it's one of the way to contain sort of random patterns. And many places it's also
But
called chaos theory, because obviously you're trying to contain the chaos in some ways into some meaningful chatter. So
so
it's one of those.
like a holograph, right?
Right. Yes. Yes. So and I think in this particular book, so Binoy, so um, he has explained the application of fractal in in many areas. I think one of the hallmark is mapping the coastal lines. So if you look at the coastal lines,
Hmm.
and if you try to measure the length of the coastal line, so if you use bigger lines to draw around the
Hmm.
coastals, vis-a-vis if you decrease the length of each line that you use to measure coastal, the length increases, because now you can get sort of more iterations or more sort of ebbs and flows of the beach into your equation. So the idea, so he pretty much uses this idea of fractal to understand some of those patterns, to understand some of those. And I think there is a huge history of fractals. I think you should definitely check this book out. So he's talking in this particular book. He's talking about how um, market behavior. So whatever happened in say financial turbulence, the traditional model that financial world uses, Beckley, Sharp, or Black Scholes, they fall short of predicting the market behavior. But when you actually draw the market behavior on fractal, you actually have some contained sort of with some error, you can contain those and you can have a better predictor. So he and you don't have to have a coding background, or you don't have to have a complete statistical background to understand this. He's actually made this book for us or business folks who try to understand. So definitely, if you get a chance to read anything uh, that uses graphics, good or geometry to read things, because now we are at a level. Now the game has changed for all of us, and so now mathematical models are no longer of similar relevance than they used to when they were like 20 years back. Now we
Mhm.
have data at our data sort of threshold to a level where we need sort of these graphical representation. Maria, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I got super excited when I saw the title because I just thought, this kind of levels somewhat of the playing field because it gives you that he's breaking it down for us in a way that, you know, we can reach some of those concepts that just the financiers are playing with. So I
Yes.
thought this was really interesting and something that I definitely, want to try to get to put on my list.
Yes, I think this is a good book. Now let's jump to the tips and tricks of the week. Excuse me, sorry guys, I have some sort of bad throat this week. So yes, so now let's talk about save yourself from zombie apocalypse from unscalable models. This actually interesting. So this
Yeah.
it basically so like in the previous section about the book on fractal, it just sort of complements that behavior. So what I think I wrote this after sort of so basically I had a good conversation with a professor from MIT on talking about error bars, and we had a good conversation around sort of the similar concept of the when the maths was created, it wasn't created for that much of throughput of data, but now data's like we have a lot of data now or data points now that we need to revisit many of these models. And the black swan event, right? So the event where sort of we're not expecting and there was a big turbulence and it just took us by storm. It there would be more such events if we don't recalibrate all this mathematical model with current traffic load. So if you are using too much old classic mathematical model, you have to revisit where and when they start faltering down. So one of the example that I can give. So from the fractal world, by the way. So one of the Benoit Mandelbrot's, I think he was the one who worked on one of the World War II problem. So
Mm.
he what happened was, so there was a mathematician, I think Lance, I'm forgetting the name, but I think it's Lance series, I guess. So he was trying to figure out a mathematical model in which the output is fed back into the input and see how the equation changed, right? So
Mm-hmm.
many of our interactions are in which the output or the turbulence actually it fed back, and it had its impact in the next future outcome. So that problem is really really real, but then it quickly exponentially, or it sort of scale our data to a total new dimensions, right? It quickly get us to unheard of numbers. So one of the best way to picture sort of to solve that problem was, so Benoit, so he put it on a graphic map, and then he just zoomed in and zoomed in and sorry, zoomed out and just he just put start plotting that on a graph, and then he looked at the pattern, so he figured out where the next number is going to be without even calculating, right? That is much like that's where we are at our at our sort of business foray. So all old and legacy classical mathematical models, they have limitations, and we should spend anything and everything that on our part to understand those limitations, because if we rely too much on those models and the error bars are big, then we'll have more black swan events coming in which we have no explanation of what hit us and when. What do you think,
Mm-hmm.
Maria?
Yeah, I think we got to be prepared.
Yes, yes, we gotta be prepared. A lot of fun stuff, and thank God computers are amazing today. Thanks to the GPUs, the
Yeah.
graphical interfaces are amazing. Clustering algorithms are amazing. So we are blessed to be in an era where graphical world or geometric world is jumping in pretty quickly to save us. I think it's our duty to understand the difference and try to bridge that gap. So I agree. So I think we don't want to be in a place where we miss out on the boat, and we sort of we rely too much on our old classical legacy models and then see it
Yeah.
falter. So I think
Yeah.
that's a must have. Then now let's talk
And
about data
actually,
science.
like
Yes.
oh,
So,
sorry. I was just saying, with the different models, and the different complexities of problems that we're now approaching, because, you know, the all like for example, clinical data, and that's a big deal over
hmm,
here because we have so many hospitals and we have those universities. And the clinical data needs layers and layers of models that are able to work with each other coherently. So it's important to have those boundaries and conditions so that these models can work together and give us accurate results, more accurate results.
right, absolutely. So yes. Now let's get to the next one, data science Q&A, and another interesting conversation about multicollinearity. Do you have anything to add to this?
I just really learned a lot with this one
Yes.
because I there's a lot here to learn.
So basically, to our audience, so collinearity is, so if you're doing regression or if you're doing multiple regressions, and if you have, say, so in a typical regression thing, you are comparing one known sort of variable with an independent, or dependent variable with an independent variable, and trying to figure out how it's impacting, right? And
Hmm.
independent variable are often called predictors, because obviously they're predicting the next value. What if you have multiple predictors and few predictors are correlated, exceptionally correlated? So that's the problem. So that's why is that a problem? Because that skew the number of it. So in a
Hmm.
perfect world, if you have more than one um, predictors who are correlated, then you just take out the other correlated ones, right? You just take out, just keep one predictor which is different, so that you get a very healthy regression model
Hmm.
and trying to understand the impact. Otherwise you'll get a biased outcome because there are more sort of predictors with similar collinearity. So that's what's going on. So if you see collinearity, if you see sort of bunch of predictors that are identical, they look identical, either they are polar or they're same, but they are actually mapping on some of the other predictors, just take few out, or I think there are a bunch of ways you can solve this, or you can sort of create I think uh, a root mean square model, or I think just best is to take it out. So the idea is you want to minimize the impact of multiple predictors with collinearity, with common linearity. That's how it's coming from. So it's important to find those. So the moment you see, and I think this is one of the highly anticipated problem. And so to give you an example, if you don't know what's going on, so like in a case of observation, so I observe, I'd say, a traffic going in front of my office every day, right? There is some linearity in that, like some predictability. I know what's happening. If I keep observing that behavior, whatever predictor I find, they will be like very similar, because I know there's a pattern. I know there's a pattern, and the pattern is pretty much same. If I'm sitting in my office or sitting on my roof, I'll see the same observation of traffic going in front of my office. So now, if I try to figure out the regression on that, it would be a bit sort of skewed, right? So we want a diverse set of predictors to help us strengthen our model, or strengthen our dependent variable. So for that matter, if we have, say, a bad model, if we have too much observatory data, if we have, say, misunderstood demo data, if somehow both of the predictors are seeded from same source, so we tend to have this collinearity problem. So the solution is to identify those and remove those. So I think that's pretty much what multicollinearity means, and this will make your multiple regression model strong a bit and perform better. Although it doesn't impact, because they're still values, so it should not impact, by the way, on the behavior, right? but it just to understand all the to understand the impact, it will help to have a more diverse predictors than similar, like than have like multiple predictors which are similar. So that's the whole point. So
Yeah,
you
because
can,
I imagine you would get a lot of correlation and
yeah,
causation with with
right, exactly.
term.
And many times I think it's, and in bunch of conversation where I've tackled this problem, I think one of the thing that I did recommend was that you have to tackle um, the collinearity as well, so analyze the why it's happening as well, so you can fix the future model design or for future regression design. But it's important to understand, because if your model is flawed, or if it has too much observatory data or whatever, like you have to understand the root cause of what is causing this collinearity, because many times if you didn't even notice this, and you end up using it, it might be of some problem. So that's like a very good lesson, by the way. So I think stats, maybe it's not 101, it's maybe 101 or 2, but definitely a very good behavior to keep a tap on and understand for sure. So now, we have now let's get to the right side of our newsletters.
We have some
So
great videos.
So,
Thanks.
yes, video of the week. So we have our friend Mitch O'Connell from Tipco, his podcast. A good friend,
Yeah.
a great sort of, and he was to our audience, he was one of the first chief analytics officer to come to our leadership podcast, sharing his learning and thinking with our audience. So I do appreciate Mitch. Thank you so much, and Tipco for making that possible for us. And I think we have grown a lot since then. So, but I think his talk was amazing. So he discussed the emphasis on culture. He discussed who should understand and use, and like how a company should build analytics practice. So I think there's a lot of takeaway from that conversation. So I do recommend checking him out. What do you think, Maria?
Yeah, and he also went through defining the different roles, and from the chief data officer to the data scientist, and how they're important for what they're doing, and and differentiating the skill sets that are necessary for what results that they're looking for. So I thought it was really good for him to like explain that. I
Yeah,
really
I
appreciate that.
I think I agree. I agree. So now let's get to the quote of the week. So data beats emotions. Yes, I think that's
Right.
fairly said. So from Sean Red, I think it. I bet there's a Dilbert cartoon on this, and I think in fact the one that we saw now, like it's in this, that's, we can call it like it's the, it fits in this thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, good. So it's good to be data driven, but I think there's one side, by the way. So emotions, if it's intuition, so I don't know, like emotion, if emotion has intuition, intuition is still relevant. I would still give it some points. So
Yeah.
sure, but yes, it beats. So that's, I fair, like on a gross scale, I agree. That
Yeah.
data
I
driven
mean,
is better.
it's hard to like I think when we're so immersed in the technology and what keep uh, new things that are being innovative, that are coming out, and we're just surrounded by these things. I think some of these ideas become like no, common sense and no-brainers. But
Hmm.
if you really kind of look at the situation, we're 2017, and it's still like we still have to have a consensus, a global consensus, like this is important or this
Right.
is more important.
I
So
agree.
it's just interesting, you know.
Yes, and interestingly, emotion still plays a vital role in decision. So I think data beats emotion, but emotion gets to decision. So I think that would be a complete. Maybe we should have our own Tao version of code on this. I think it's a good extension. But yes, I agree. I totally agree with you. Makes sense. So now let's talk about podcast of the week, using analytics to build big data workforce. So I think this is the second time it's throwing in this podcast, or third time maybe. But this is again, I would let our audience just drink this podcast multiple times. So it is I think delivered by Greta Roberts from Talent Analytics from I love her. I think she was one of
she was great.
yes, I think, and she was one of the first one that I have met who was talking about workforce analytics when even it's a thing. So definitely, uh, they are doing amazing work, and people should check at least this podcast out and see what Talent Analytics is up to and Greta Robert is up to. And thank you, Greta, for sharing your thoughts with our community. And I think this is going to be a good conversation for our fellow, because if you want to build a workforce, so how you can use analytics, right? So I think it's beautiful. It's a beautiful conversation starter that at least get you thinking in this direction of how you can use analytics to build a very strong workforce.
Yeah, she was really great. She's very direct, and she really, I think, even though this was a few years ago, this is so relevant now,
Yes.
and there are so many companies looking to build data science teams, to recruit data science or data folk. And I think that I agree with you. If you're looking for more information, you should listen to this podcast a couple times, because
Yeah.
there is just so much that she has so much to share, that she's such an expert. So shout
Wow.
out to.
Yes, yes, good job, Greta, there, and I think love to keep seeing more work from your side. So now let's get to the fact of the week. I think it's funny. Why this fact of the week is funny is he's predicting for 2012. So we are already sitting
Right.
in 2017. So I think it's 5 years too early for us. But yes, so he's saying that more people will be using data science, and I think it's still relevant today. So we still are seeing a lot of businesses, almost every business that we talk to. They are having some big data initiative underway, and actually now they're talking about analytics, not let alone big data.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, the conversation is broadening and more inclusive now.
yes,
Yeah.
that brings us to the closure. Excuse me. So thank you, everyone. I hope you like what we are doing. I hope you find these newscasts useful, and do let us know. We'll leave our email underneath this podcast. So if you have any feedback, suggestions, if you want us to cover anything, if you have any sort of thoughts, grudges, grievances, we are excited and we are all ears to hear about those. Do let us know. And again, thank you for so much for your support. I think we have, when Marie and we were starting this thing, we had a brief chat and we said, hey, only probably at least we both should be listening to this. At least we'll get 2 views. But we are actually seeing lot more. Now it's in its hundreds views. So definitely,
That's awesome. Yay.
I do appreciate everyone who is sort of helping us extend this
Keep the
voice of
conversation
analytics.
going. Yeah.
Yes, I think you guys are rock star. So now let's do some house cleaning work. Keep a lookout on the Tau. So we are working on Tau's new version now. So this would be coming out probably in a month. We have some
Yeah.
interesting news that is about to roll out. So I think keep an eye on that. And do let us know if we can help with your talent search, and do let us know if we can help you guys or your company or your team in any capacity. And I definitely appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and stay data driven.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
I thought I was sick of home, but actually I was homesick. Never really knew that I would have to grow up so quick. I'm so uncomfortable, don't know anybody here. Just a couple dudes that I met once, that's it. And I go into the booth feeling nervous. Got butterflies in my stomach like I'm so worthless. Is the mic on? I don't know how to work this. Inside I'm breaking down, I hope I'm not up on the